So can Muslims be prone to depression? Of course they can. Every human being will go through their lives through hardships, distress at some point in their life. So even if you're a person that is high in the level of Iman and you pray 5 times a day, you read your Quran, you give in charity, you serve the community, you serve your parents, and you're a person who actually goes out with the intention of doing good, you can still be prone to experiencing symptoms of depression. So my name is Hanan Dover. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist. I'm very passionate about the field of psychology. I also hold a few representative roles in the profession of psychology. For example, I'm the first appointed female vice president of the International Association of Muslim Psychologists. I'm also the current convener of the Islam and Psychology Interest Group of the Australian Psychological Society, the founder of Mission of Hope, which is a not-for-profit charity in the area of health and community development. And some may want to add that I'm a prolific social media commentator. Depression and anxiety, for example, most people in the world go through that condition at least once in their life. So it's something we have to accept. And especially when, as human beings, the way our bodies are designed, the way our minds are as well, it's prone to dysfunction. Okay, we're not perfect. We're not robots. So we do have that level of malfunction, whether it's our mind, body, and soul. And so the key is to look for avenues to be able to alleviate those symptoms and manage them as well. Emotions, we have to understand they're natural. Our emotions are natural, but when they go to their extremes, whether they're high and low, we have to resort and look at ways to manage these emotions so that don't disturb that element of equilibrium. The one thing that's important in relation to depression is to understand that depression is not merely sadness. So when we're in conflict with other people, for example, with our family, friends, colleagues, or there are experiences in everyday society that may upset you, this is not depression. And sadness as an emotion is unavoidable. It is natural, it is normal. It's only until these feelings of sadness tend to continue and you start to ruminate and you start to have a type of depressive thinking state where you spiral out of control and go rock bottom, that we can say that it can actually lead to depression. So if sadness accumulates where the root cause of your cognitions, your thinking styles, is actually very negative, okay, where you start to ruminate about things that have happened in your past and you can't go forward, then yes, it can lead to depression. And it's not only the low mood state, it's where you cannot get up in the morning and also look forward to what you're doing throughout the day. So your day-to-day living also becomes affected. So your social engagement with your peers become affected. Your interaction, interpersonal relationships become affected with your family and friends. Your work gets disturbed, so your occupational habits and your occupational work performance does get affected as well. And also doing fun things, any pleasurable activity that you have engaged in the past and you no longer engage in, this can also lead to depression. So this is very important, and this kind of state needs to last for about a few weeks. But also there are other symptoms that take place before one can be said to feel or undergo depression. For example, there are appetite changes. So you either overeat or eat a lot of junk food, or you have poor appetite. You'll have a low sex drive or low libido, for example. You have this personal feeling or sense of worthlessness or a lot of guilt and self-blame. You start to isolate yourself from family, friends, or activities as well. Your energy goes down, so you feel very lethargic in the process. Also, your memory and you become very forgetful as well. And so these are very serious symptoms that are involved in experiencing depression. And whilst as Muslims we do have a tendency, and even religious scholars will actually say that depression is a lack of Iman, that's actually very unfair on the person who is suffering from depression. Because whilst Iman can be a symptom of a person who's suffering depression, or it may lead to depression, there are a complex set of factors that lead to depression. It could be social, could be physiological, could be biological, it could be in the actions, and it could also be in the cognitions, and also spirituality. So it's very important that we look at depression in being caused from a complex set of factors. that's not necessarily based down to one spirituality or one's level of Iman. Because as human beings, as Muslims as well, we understand that human beings are, have a complex set of systems, that are interrelated, mind, body, and soul, and our spirituality. So this is important also when we look at depression. We look at these interrelated factors in order to be able to understand the nature of depression, to understand what is causing the depression, and also use that in terms of what is treatment of depression as well. And it's very important for sufferers of depression to also seek out professional mental health help in order to appropriately diagnose and treat those symptoms and also manage those symptoms. So it's important that we understand that it's not merely sadness. That sadness needs to accumulate to a certain point where you can't engage in your day-to-day activities before one can be treated or diagnosed with depression. So in the treatment of depression, there are multiple pathways to recovery. So for example, there are psychological, social, lifestyle, biological, and even physical pathways that you can actually use to integrate in your treatment to depression. So if you're a female and you were depressed, one of the ways you can also incorporate worship into that treatment is, for example, going to an Islamic class where there's a group of Muslim women, engaging in that. Because if you get out of bed, and often people who are depressed lack a lot of self-care. You'd want to look presentable, so you'd be getting up, brushing your teeth, and getting ready to go, wearing nice clothes. And in that, there is that behavioral activation, and also traveling to that Islamic class or that Islamic support network, or even any other social network, for example. And then when you're actually engaging in that social or support network, it becomes a social remedy as well. So you're talking to people, you're engaging, you're distracting yourself from that negative self-talk as well. And maybe in that particular setting, you're talking about religious ideas, religious education, praying together. So you're incorporating that religious form of worship. Maybe there's a donation box in that particular class, so you can also donate in charity, which is also found to assist in the alleviation of depression. Also volunteering, serving other people is very important. So there's many ways that you can actually look towards alleviating symptoms of depression. There's not only one form. What you eat, how you interact with other people, the people you engage with as well can be very important. Often we look at the treatment for depression in terms of emotional self-regulation, where we look after ourselves, our cognitions. What is often ignored or not talked about is co-regulation, how we interact with other people, our relationships with other people. So it's very important we move towards co-regulation rather than solely focusing on self-regulation, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us as an ummah. We are a social people, we are social beings, and one of the best remedies for depression is being around people, whether it's your family, friends, your peers at work, going to sporting engagements and so forth, attending classes, social networks, activities, going to the gym, exercising, that they are also very important in terms of the treatment of depression. So in the treatment of depression, it has to be holistic, it has to be integrated, and there are multiple pathways to the treatment of depression. The Prophet ﷺ said there are two things that the Ummah take advantage of, and one is time, the other is health and wellness. So given depression is a health and wellness issue, we need to seek out treatment. We also have to uphold tawakkul, where we have that reliance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we do have that hope for recovery as well, because there is treatment for depression, and we can often get the support from mental health professionals to appropriately assess, manage, and also treat our symptoms. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cure all those who are suffering from mental health issues or mental illness, including depression, inshallah.
الآن فخير الوقت الآن يحين بادر واستبق الخير ستسعد ذاك يقين بها سمت أسماؤنا نمضي وتبقى هنا أعمالنا وبها سمت أسماؤنا نمضي وتبقى هنا.